All right, George, another title for the Huskies. UConn women absolutely destroyed South Carolina, 82-59 for its 12th national title. Now, I was taking a victory lap during this game because I correctly predicted UConn would win the whole shebang-a-bang. And I correctly predicted UConn, South Carolina, in the title. What I did not correctly predict was a beatdown. I did not see this coming. I thought this would be an epic game, back and forth. Geno against Don Staley. Like, I thought all of it, right? Yeah. Hollywood stuff. Maybe Paige Bueckers, game winner. I had it all plotted out in my head. George, this was absolute dominance from the opening tap.
Yeah. And I think you talk about it like what would have been great is like a Paige Bueckers buzzer beater, sure, right? But it's also just Hollywood that for UConn to come out and dominate like this. This was the old UConn Huskies we're used to seeing. And it's taking down the new age of the UConn Huskies because this is a South Carolina team. And Don Staley, that's won a national championship in 2017 and the last 2 years as well. Mm-hmm. So they were going for history on their own. But this UConn team was finally healthy. We've seen Paige Bueckers, as she won, first freshman to ever win Player of the Year, National Player of the Year, but loses a season to a torn ACL, battled her injuries. This team dealing with injuries as well. AZ Fudd as well. She had a torn ACL, battled through injuries herself. But it was a UConn team finally healthy, a UConn team motivated, which you don't have to say. And it's also for Geno Auriemma, 71 years old, winning his first national championship since 2016, dominating like this. It just shows how deep that entire program is. I was trying to find the exact right words to say because it's weird to say that.
Yeah.
But it's when they're healthy, when they're right, it's the same old UConn.
Right.
It's been a while since that point. But it was AZ Fudd with 24 points. Paige Bueckers didn't have the most dominant game, finished with just 17.
She didn't need to.
But defensively, what she was doing at the 4 spot, and then the freshman, Sarah Strong. This is where it gets laughable. Sarah Strong was just a freshman.
That's right.
Finished with 24 points and 15 rebounds. And to me, was the most dominant player on the floor for either team. Defending around the rim, as South Carolina likes to attack inside. They're not a shooting team as they were this year. But also just getting the boards off the glass, defensively around the rim, and then AZ Fudd with her mid-range game and attacking the basket working for her. It was just a levels to this, and it was finally Fudd and Bueckers healthy. And then with the support like they need for a strong player like a Sarah Strong. You
said it. Fudd and Bueckers being healthy, I thought made all the difference in the world. And they would have had more titles together had they both dealing with knee injuries, quite frankly, past couple years. By the way, AZ Fudd, you know where she's from, right?
Baltimore.
DC.
There you go.
Covered her.
DMV. DC's got hoopers.
I'm telling you.
And it's that also with Sarah Strong being just a freshman.
Yep.
This was the making of a few seasons for them to win this championship.
Yes.
Because Paige Bueckers has dealt with her injuries, and that would be putting AZ Fudd in a bigger role.
That's right.
AZ Fudd has dealt with her injuries.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you see last season, KK Arnold and Ashlyn Shade playing 30-plus minutes a night.
Yep.
They were starters because of injuries. They were backups.
Yes.
Throughout this entire season and this run. But they, as sophomores, they buy into that role. They buy into Geno Auriemma.
Yep.
And look what it did, where they were key contributors in this championship game. It's the depth they had, and it was this team getting Final Four experience, still making it, as injured as they've been, too.
They were tough.
Bueckers has led them to multiple Final Fours.
They're still tough.
Having that experience, but end of the day, you need those elite ballers.
That's right.
And what Paige was doing defensively, what AZ Fudd was doing, I think was so impressive of, on one end of the floor, picking on Malaysia Fulwali, picking her pocket midcourt, double teaming her on a drive, knocking the ball out of her hands again when they're on the defensive end of the floor, and going end to end with that, just getting points off turnovers. But also how efficient she was. She was 6 for 11 on 2-point field goals. Finished with 24 points. This was a team in UConn that didn't hit their first 3 with under 10 seconds left in the first half, and that put them up 36-26.
That's insane.
For them to dominate a USC team like this, I was so surprised.
Yeah.
But again, that's the respect to a UConn team. Since they lost to Tennessee beginning of February, won 16 straight. Average margin of victory was 32-plus points per game. The closest win they had, 14 points over USC in the Elite Eight. This was a team that was so locked in and dialed in and wanted to get back to the top.
It was one of the reasons I predicted them to win it, because I thought as the season went on, it felt very much I don't know if Geno ever came out and said it, but it felt kind of minutes restriction-esque to me. He wasn't tasking his best players with a ton of minutes. He was allowing that depth to carry them, and by the time they got to the tournament, they were healthy. And it just goes to show you, too, how health is so critical in this stuff, because Juju gets hurt.
Yeah.
USC's finished. Meanwhile, UConn in past years, like we're talking about, Fudd's hurt, Bueckers hurt. Now they're healthy. They go on to win the thing. Now, what happens after every championship, you start having the legacy conversations. Yeah. I think Paige Bueckers, now that she has one title. Now, we've seen great players with more than one. But I think now that she does have that title and she captured it, I think it does catapult her, certainly not to the top, but when you talk about great UConn women hoopers, when you talk about great women hoopers, period, you have to now mention Paige Bueckers' name. I also feel the same way with Geno Auriemma. Now, I think you and I have talked about this before. We both consider him the GOAT already, but now you just add a 12th natty to the resume. It's almost like Saban at the end, where we already felt like Saban was a GOAT, and then he just added 2 more natties for good measure. Yeah. That's what it feels like with Geno, is he is separating himself from the rest of the pack when you talk GOAT coaches, maybe in all of sports, if we're being honest, but certainly in women's college basketball.
I mean, how do you not put him up in the conversation? Because it's Geno with his 12 national championships. It's John Wooden with his 10 natties. It's Pat Summitt with her 8. And then it's everyone else. There's Coach K with his 5, and then there's a bunch of people with 3 national championships, including Dawn
You could
Staley.
make the case Geno's the greatest coach ever, period.
And it's because he did it. His first ring came in 95.
Right.
Then there was the early 2000 runs. 2000, then 02, 03, 04 they won.
That's where he's building the powerhouse.
Right. So there's winning in 2000, then there's a 3-peat.
Yes.
Then there's the Breonna Stewart era where she 4-peated. Bar none, she's the best player in program history.
Yes.
It's her and Diana Taurasi 1-2, and then there's everyone else.
Absolutely.
Wins in 16, doesn't win since. And it's how the game has literally changed. And you hear it all the time, but it's true. They go portaling. Like, Geno Auriemma is not above the portal.
Yeah.
He will go and add starters to it, like he did in this run. That's what, to me, how do you not say he's the greatest college basketball coach of all time? With the multiple rings, dominating the women's game. And even as a parity is up there, and Dawn Staley's catching up. She's recruiting all these McDonald All-Americans. And it's also with the run that they had. Yes, no Juju Watkins with USC, but they beat 1 seed USC 78-64, UCLA by 34 points, and then they beat South Carolina 82-59, 3 straight ones. Now, of course, when Geno got his start, when they were having the beginning, it was basically Tennessee and UConn, and then there was everyone else. So it wasn't as much parity. There wasn't as much competition on the top. And that's where he got a lot of his rings. So I can understand that argument. But 12 national championships, and again, to get the buy-in from his team like this, and he sets up players for success. It's not like he has great college players that do nothing in the W.
Sure.
He has players that are great at UConn and great in the W.
Paige will be great in the W.
He's up
Fudd
there.
will be great in the W.
He is up there as one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. He
might be the
as
guy.
is Pat Summitt, as is John Wooden, as is Coach K, as is Dawn Staley right now, as is Kim Mulkey, as is Roy Williams, Bob Knight.
Sure.
You have to put them all in that conversation, just how they dominate the sport.
It's no doubt about it, man. It's really impressive what he's been able to do. And by the way, you brought up South Carolina. They are not going anywhere. I'm looking, as you know, George, everything comes back to gambling for me. I'm looking at next year's odds as we talk. South Carolina, the favorite, plus 450. Juju and USC plus 500, UConn right there plus 600, and then LSU, Notre Dame, and Texas all at plus 750. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, Fudd's a great player. I think she'll be great in the W. I think I would probably bet on South Carolina. We could be looking at this title game all over again next year, depending on brackets. Because let's talk about this, too. You know, when these brackets came out, I thought the committee missed a huge opportunity. Now, obviously, it didn't work out because Juju Watkins got hurt.
Yeah.
But I thought seeing UConn and USC in the same region was stupid.
Yeah.
I thought that could have been a title game. But, hey, next best thing is South Carolina, UConn. If I'm them next season, I'm going to try to make sure I seed them accordingly where we could potentially get a rematch. in next year's championship game, because right now I'd probably bet South Carolina and UConn again. I bet South Carolina to win it all at plus 450. But I will say this, my friend.
Yeah.
I have never seen Dawn Staley like that in my life. I mean, she was flustered to the upteenth degree. I've never seen her quite like that, but I understood why watching the game. They didn't shoot well. UConn had that defense on them. There were some questionable calls there early that shifted momentum. I get it. I would have been frustrated cussing everybody out too.
It was the buy-in that it was defensively. Like, again, when I'm talking about AZ Fudd, who dropped 24 points, I'm talking about her defense on
Bueckers too.
Malaysia Fulwali and Paige Bueckers at that 4 spot when Sarah Strong is on the floor in the 5.
That's right.
Defensively, I'm talking. But this is a team that 2017, it was Asia Wilson.
Yeah.
Then their next natty, it was Aaliyah Boston. Then after that, it was Camila Cardozo last year.
That's right.
Where, like, that was the alpha on the floor for South Carolina. This was a team no one averaged more than 25 minutes or 12 points per game. Where through the regular season and, conference tournament play, it could be, hey, it's anybody's night. I'll be ready. But if it's not their night, it'll be mine.
Yes.
But eventually there is someone you have to defer to if they're going to dominate the game. You run the offense through them.
Yes.
It can be Joyce Edwards, who's just a freshman for them this season. Because you'll see the flashes, 22 points in 21 minutes. Then you'll see 6 points in 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. Then you'll go back up 17 and 20, but then it'll be the dip. It was just inconsistent for her. But as a freshman, playing with all those McDonald's All-Americans, it's tough to find your confidence on the floor and what your role is. Moving forward, Dawn Staley, and she probably learned from this one because she's a great coach. I need to hone in on one player, and that has to be my leader on the floor scoring. And it could be a Joyce Edwards. She is special because when she's on, she's on. Her bag is deep. She's such a lethal scorer. She could do what a Juju Watkins or an AZ Fudd does for their offenses. I think that's where this team goes. They were deep. They were balanced. But when it comes to tournament play and winning national championships, you can have all the depth in the world. You need the person when the pressure's on, when the stage is biggest, when the lights are brightest, who's going to take your shot, who's going to make that shot for you. UConn had them, and South Carolina didn't have them yet. But again, they were going for a three-peat. Like, this is such a good program. It's funny, you look at this UConn team. This was an all-time UConn team. You talked about Paige. She was top 10 in program history.
Absolutely.
As is.
Yes.
Before winning this ring.
She needed this.
She's top 5.
Yeah,
and
I
this
agree.
is a program, Stewart.
Yep.
With Nafisa Collier.
Lobo.
With Rebecca Lobo.
So many greats.
Swin Cash.
So many greats.
Right? Like Diana Taurasi. Again, like so many big-time players.
Yeah.
This was one that was missing from Paige Bueckers' resume. She was an all-time GOAT without it.
Yes.
But I'm so happy there is a conversation of, she's an all-time great, but no. She's an all-time great, and she won the whole thing.
It also pads Geno Auriemma. I'm looking at this now, 24th Final Four. He's now 12-1 in championship games. The only loss came to South Carolina a couple years back. I mean, it's an unbelievable run that they've been on. I can't wait to see what the future holds for both of these programs, which is why I said I would bet on both of them.